Welcome to Magnet Marketers, our weekly live show where we break down the head, heart, and hand approach to building sustainable growth in your business. During each episode, we share actual client marketing best practice examples, strategies, and tactics that will help you generate real results. Our belief? A magnet always works better than being a bullhorn to attract, retain, and build your brand. Ready to dive into this week's Relationship Marketing Training Tuesday? Well, let's get started. Here's your host, Mike Gingerich and Jessika Phillips. All right. Yay. Hello. And welcome to this week, Magnet Marketers Training Tuesday, where our goals always help you become a magnet with your marketing versus being a bullhorn. And today we're diving into some data. We're going to talk about all things data. Yeah, Brie's getting excited. Mike's getting excited.
Yeah.
You too should be getting excited because we're talking about how the data can grow your business, like how you can use it to get the true ROI. But before we introduce our special guest today and get into the data, a quick hello. If we've not met before, my name is Jessika Phillips with Now Marketing Group and the Relationship Marketing System. And my personal mission is to help you love more, give more, and be more through the art of authentic relating and using some relationship marketing to do that. And my awesome co-host, he's Mike Gingerich. He's the president of a web development and software firm, Digital Hill Multimedia, published author 5 times over, triathlete runner, biker, and leading business blogger at MikeGingerich.com. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, doing well. Looking forward to the conversation here. And it's a sunny day in my part of the world. So that's a good thing.
Julia's excited for today too, because she knows she's heard Brie speak at Social Media Week Lima. But Mike, if someone does not know Brie Anderson, why don't you introduce her for everyone?
Yes, let me give you the official bio for anybody that's a newbie out there for us. Brie Anderson is an analytical nerd with a soft spot for strategy. It's a pretty big soft spot though too. Her experience ranges from startups and nonprofits to Fortune 500 companies. Today, you can find her at a coffee shop running her consultancy, Beast Analytics, where she creates data-driven strategies for her clients, conducts strategy audits, and contributes to industry publications such as Moz and Search Engine Journals. She's also got a marketing merch store. Just go to marketingmerchstore.com. You can check that out. We'll drop it in the notes. But welcome, Brie.
Thanks for having me. Man, Mike has a tough act to follow, a triathlete. I have walked a couple steps today, just a few.
Yeah, but you're like a former professional soccer player, you know? I mean, come on.
Oh, man.
No, Brie, I love it. I love it that you were like the woman that's into the data, but also like this rocker chick, which is super awesome. You have great energy. So I know everyone that's listening here today, she's going to drop some knowledge bombs for you. So I would get ahead of the curve if I were you and type the word recap in the comments here, because that will make sure that you get a recap of today's show and links to connect with Brie afterward that we'll publish tomorrow by the lovely Julia. But Brie, just to kick things off, I want to ask you, because there's data is everywhere, right? Like, we can track everything, our phones track things, Google Analytics, all the things, right? But as we boil it down for today's topic, what is the best data to track and how do we get started as brands to really move the needle?
Well, I guess just like with anything, if we're talking about a triathlon, you wouldn't start a triathlon without an end goal, right? Like you wouldn't start running without knowing where the finish line was, or at least have the course laid out so that you could find the finish line. or swimming or biking. I think those are the 3 events. And so when it comes to data, the very first thing you need to make sure that you're tracking is whatever your end goal is, right? So if my end goal is to sell t-shirts with the marketing merch store, then I need to be able to track how many t-shirts am I selling. And then from there, how many people added them to cart? Maybe they didn't, actually order, but they were close, right? And so you have your main objective, which is your, selling, and then you have other key performance indicators, which say, hey, we're kind of on the right track. So you want to track things like add to cart, product view, or product page views, and things of that nature. But really, bare minimum, you need to be tracking whatever your goal is so that you can make good decisions on where you need to be putting your time and effort. So everything else is nice to know. You guys talk a lot about relationship marketing, and that's, understanding your customers. There's a lot of data that can be collected there, especially understanding what are the kinds of people that actually purchase. I think we tend to think that a certain type of person is going to be interacting with us or buying from us. And sometimes that's just not always the case. So, there's a lot out there, but definitely making sure that we're tracking what our end goal is. Start there and then work backwards.
I like that. Work backwards from the end goal, because it can just be overwhelming. I mean, I just think you go in there, Google Analytics, and you want conversion tracking. You're just like, okay. And then you go into Facebook ads and you're like, okay. And so I think what you said about working backwards can help take away some of that, just massive overwhelm.
Right. Because, I mean, I try and tell people, like, for me, going into Google Analytics and getting lost is the fun part. For most people, going into Google Analytics and getting lost causes analysis paralysis, or people just like not, they totally getting overwhelmed and then never logging in again. That's not the goal, right? The goal should be to go in and find out what's working, what's not working, and make decisions based off of that. And the best way to do that is to go into Google Analytics knowing what you're looking for. Go into Facebook ads knowing what you're looking for, because you have a goal. Like, yes, the goal is to, let's say we're running Facebook ads. The goal is to generate leads with Facebook ads, but there are some other goals, right? Like, I want to generate qualified leads. I want to generate leads at a price point that makes sense. So a few of the things that you need to be gathering while you're in there. If you know those things, don't get lost in, there are like over 100 columns that you can add in Facebook ads, but not all of those are going to be helpful in every instance, every time you log into Facebook ads, right? I highly recommend having the data points that you want. You can create custom views in Facebook ads. You can create custom views in Google Analytics and in most analytics platforms. So I highly suggest doing that and going in with a plan before you jump into any analytics platform.
And that's really what I heard when you said start with the end in mind. Like, even before you get to the analytics part, right? It's like you're mapping out what is your goal, right? So if your goal, as we're moving into the holiday season, let's just say e-commerce, right? Maybe get sales, but maybe it's also to get some traction on your site or increase repeat visitors, whatever those things are. Like, logically thinking, okay, if this is our goal, here's how we need to get there. And then now I know, like you said, what to set up, because I've seen it so often with clients where they'll, set up and they're launching an ad, right? And they're looking at conversions and things like that. But then they're looking at the data as this big picture, and they're like, oh, we had all this traffic on our site, and now our bounce rate went here and this went here. And I'm like, okay, well, data tells a story, right? You have to now know with a different view. Like, if you guys didn't know, what she's saying is, like, you can go into analytics and create a custom view, or whatever data point you're in, and create a custom view to look just at that story, if you will, to see what that's telling you. Because if not, it's not really painting the full picture of what's happening and what all
right.
that does, right?
Right. So something that I like to do with my clients is, we sit down and we go over, okay, what are you trying to do? Like, what's the goal of your business? What's the goal of the website? They should be along the same lines, but they are a little bit different, right? And then, what's the goal of each campaign or tactic that you're working on? And then we go in and create I really like custom Google Data Studio dashboards because that relieves the pressure from them from going in to all these different analytic platforms and trying to figure out, what they need to be looking at and when.
Can you
Because
explain that a little bit for
yeah,
anybody that doesn't know? Yeah.
yeah. So Google Data Studio, so data tells a story. Visualizations paint the picture, right? That's what I like to say. So Google Data Studio is a data visualization product, and it allows you to bring in a bunch of different data sources, right? So your Google Analytics can pull in there, your Facebook page and group and ads, your Twitter account, all that stuff, all that data can go into one place. And then you essentially create, like, think of it as a book. This page talks about Google Analytics, or this page talks about a specific campaign that we're running. And I like to create those with my clients just because it relieves some of the pressure. It visualizes things so it can kind of paint the picture so they can better understand the story without having to get lost in so many numbers. I know I like the numbers. I like to play with the numbers and look at all that kind of fun stuff. Some people want to cry when they see numbers. So I like to relieve as much of that pain as I possibly can using a data visualization tool, and Data Studio is just what I lean on for that.
That's worth all the money of showing up today just to hear you explain all the pieces that you could pull in there and visualize.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody cries about ROI. They may cry about like looking at data, but when it clearly shows, okay, here's where our money is working, or our
Yeah.
time as money is working, that's worth it, right? So some of the things that I know you can tell in Data Studio, like we were talking about, is like what kinds of, for example, maybe you can give a couple others, social posts, for example, have generated then a good result, or social channel, right? Like, because you can now plug in some things, which you'll explain, into the data, so we know where our time is working, and where our dollars are working.
Right. So all of this goes back to, knowing the goal and then planning how you're going to get there. So our goal, right, sake of Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, the goal is to sell t-shirts. How are we going to sell t-shirts? Where we're going to work on social media, we're going to do email, and then maybe maybe we have a live event. I don't know. I'm just making things up. So if those are our three tactics to hey Jen, I love her so much. If those are our three tactics that we're really going to push, then we need to have a way to track all of those tactics as well, right?
Yeah.
And that, so you create a tracking plan. One of the best ways to do this is to use UTM codes, which is essentially just like a weird line of code that you add to the end of your URL so that you can track this, so that it tells Google a specific source and medium that traffic has come from, or
Yeah.
you can use, like, it creates a unique URL basically. Okay. So we use unique URLs for each of our tactics so that we can directly attribute money to those different strategies. And the best way to do that is to look into Google Analytics or whatever, look at the source medium and say, okay, Google will tell you a few different ways. There's one which is called like last click attribution. So it'll say the last thing that somebody was visiting. So the last place somebody was Facebook, and then they came to your website and purchased. That's the last click. Now, if somebody went to Facebook and then they went to your um an article that talked about you on TechCrunch, and then they came to your website, well, the last click there is TechCrunch, but we can also look at assisted conversions, which would say Facebook did play a part in that conversion, correct? So
Good.
when
Yep.
yeah, when you put those things together, and if you've assigned value to each of the t-shirts that you're selling or each of the leads that you gather, how much does that mean to your business? Then Google will give you the exact number that you've generated. So using UTM codes, you're able to see, okay, this Facebook post generated $4,000 worth of sales for us. And what that helps is understanding, looking at both the last click direct attribution, as well as the assisted conversions, and understanding the user journey, all that fun stuff. What that helps is understanding what pieces of the puzzles work together to create the bigger picture, right? So like social media is something that often gets overlooked. It's like, oh, well, it's not generating that much value, because oftentimes it's a part of the journey, but it's not the entire journey, or it's not the last step of the journey.
There you
right?
go.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Like, for real.
So a perfect example is I had a client that had a YouTube channel, and when we looked at direct conversions, which is what you're generally going to see from people, when we looked at direct conversions, it made like $500. Now, $500 would be fine if it was like a video and we didn't put a ton of effort into it, but it was like 22 videos and they were all, super long and well, produced. So we're kind of like, we've put way more than $500 into this strategy. Well, when we looked at assisted conversions, there was over $10,000 worth of revenue generated from YouTube.
There we go.
And it's just because YouTube was a part or a piece of the puzzle. Like they would go to YouTube and then they would look us up organically and go, oh, these guys are legit, and then come to our website and buy from us.
See, that's huge, because that's so much of the journey today, right? I mean, people aren't just like, if I see it, I will buy, but they're meandering, and it takes some time, 7 points of contact or whatever. But if you can go back and figure out, hey, this YouTube was in that mix, that's a good thing to know.
Right. And being able to attribute different dollars to different strategies allows you to do, we put things into 3 buckets at Beast. The things that you need to stop doing because you've invested a lot of time or money or resources. So you can identify those things. You can identify the things that you need to scale because they're working really well. Like we're putting time into it, but it's working really well. We're seeing a return on investment. And then also the things you need to start. So maybe you've overlooked, like maybe you're actually getting a lot of traffic from mommy bloggers and you didn't quite realize that it was getting you money. Right. So maybe those are the things that you need to start doing and start really putting effort into. So those are the 3 buckets that we look at, because when you start looking at return on investment, you might see, hey, we blog every single month. And let's say you put 5 hours into it every month. If you have an hourly rate of 500, or if you have an hourly rate of $100, that's $500 that you could be, if you're not making that money back or you're not generating leads, then maybe for the time being, we need to shift our focus onto something that is generating revenue. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And Jen says that she could talk to you about UTM parameters and just all the metrics all day because it's so much knowledge. And I 100% agree. And I love, as you start with the end in mind, right? Data tells a story. The visuals there, paint the picture for you. And I think it's so important to pay attention to that because of, like you said, where we're investing our dollars, what we need to start doing, what we need to stop doing and stop wasting time on, and what we could keep doing, right? Like, so, what's already working. Because I've seen it before so often, like I said, with clients, like looking at one big picture and thinking that something's not working because maybe they had a big campaign the month before and now data looks down, but it's because something else was working and maybe they could do a different spin-off of that again. And when you started talking about Facebook ads, even specifically when we're starting with the end in mind and what we're trying to get out of it and how we can maybe improve or start doing, like you said, with different mommy bloggers now, maybe that you're getting traction from. One thing that we found really important data that we didn't really think was data is looking at like the reviews that people were leaving for a company, like positive reviews, and looking at the words they were using, right? And then starting incorporating some of those words now into the context of the ad, and just refining things and then measuring to see which one's performing maybe better now if you're changing that. But everything around you that you're getting your clients or communities input on is really data when you think about it. So if we're thinking about what we start measuring, so we started talking a little bit about social, right? Now we talked a little bit about web. What would you consider a brand really needs to hone in on when it's concerning data to really shift the needle?
It as far as like relationships go, I think one of the biggest things that a brand should be looking at just for like branding in general
Hmm.
is sentiment, which is still really
Hmm.
hard to measure
Yeah.
because you know our vernacular in different one just in different areas is completely
Hmm.
different. Like sick could mean something really good in one place and really bad in another place, right? Like if
Hmm.
I'm saying it, it's a pretty good thing, but if some Joe Schmo out here in Kansas says sick, they
Hmm.
probably don't mean it's a good thing. So sentiment is kind of hard, but one of the ways that you can get around that is by understanding your customers and where they're coming from. There are a few different ways that you can do that, but something that I like to do, you were talking about the reviews, something that's really fun to do is take all of your reviews and throw them into a word map and see like which words are used the most, because that tells you what they value, right? So if they value they were friendly, if they value the process was so easy, we were in and out quick, something of that nature, you can see
Yeah.
what it is that your customer is valuing. Something I also like to do is go to the competitors, pull all their negative reviews and
Hmm.
see what made this such a negative experience for this person to want to come on, and make sure that we never do that, and that we assure our clients that we are never going to do that because
I
we
think
know
that's a
that those are
secret
the pain
weapon.
points.
Seriously,
Yeah.
like just changing the words, like water bottle
Yeah.
company, we were using like hydration tracker or whatever, and they wanted motivational water bottles, whatever. So the thing that we thought was the thing
Mhm.
that was really
Wasn't
going
the
to move
thing.
the needle wasn't the thing. Like, and it was just shifting that little bit, and spot on with the competitors too of, the water bottle leaks or it
Yeah.
doesn't have the ice that goes in, when you put it under the ice maker, it doesn't go in easily. Those were the complaints. So now we know what to focus on, right? Like the spin-off of that. So you're spot on with there. That's gold money right there. So love that
So
tip.
yeah, whenever you can use your customers' words, 100% of the time it's going to perform better, because what's more annoying than somebody constantly telling you they're great? Like, I don't want to you don't get to make that decision, right? Like somebody else has to validate that for me. That's why, Amazon, everybody, the first place people look on Amazon products is reviews. So you need like there's a reason for that. They want that third party validation. And so anytime you can offer that to people ahead of time, it is going to be helpful. Another thing that I would suggest people do is look at Google Trends. So I just did this with somebody recently. Looking up your name in Google Trends and then looking up your competitor's name in Google Trends, you can compare them and see how you're doing like trend wise. So interest, it tracks interest over time depending on search volume. It sounds complicated. It's really not that complicated. Um, and so you can see, how you are doing in comparison to your competitor over time using Google Trends, but you can also see it shows you regionally. Like maybe you're winning here in Kansas. Like maybe you're winning in Sedgwick County, but you're losing in a Johnson County. I think that's another county. I don't know. I don't know why I chose counties, but like maybe you're winning in Sedgwick County, but you're losing in Johnson County. And why is that? You can go like very, very specific and kind of see those regional differences. You can also see like what Google associates your brand with, like topic wise. So that inspirational water bottles, like are they associating you with athletics? Are they associating you with yoga specifically? Is there a reason that they're associating you with yoga specifically? Those are all kinds of things to consider, because again, it just helps you understand your audience more.
Mhm.
And the more you can understand understand them, the more you're able to actually relate to them.
Yeah. That's so good. I put the link to Google Trends here. It's trends.google.com if you've not used it before. So good. Free tool that you can use, as Brie had mentioned, like to look up trends. I mean, it's even things like, if you're looking to compare a couple words, like which one is performing better, which one's kind of going up in trend, and it's really kind of cool to look at. We've looked at yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of the easiest things to do is go to Ohio, okay? Change it to just Ohio and look up soda and look up pop. And it'll give you a great a great comparison. And it's those regional things though that people don't really think about. Like think about when you go and buy shampoo. There's always like the one shampoo that has just the English instructions, and then there's one shampoo that has like English and French and Chinese and whatever, and it's because they've only produced it once. Like they're not thinking, and I mean, when you pick it up, like, oh, this isn't tailored just to me. They've created this, they've mass produced it and sent it to everyone. It feels a lot more personal when it's created just for you. And we know that personalization and relatability is the future. So why wouldn't you use a tool like Trends to create that more personal content?
She said something gold right there. You said personalization is the future, is the goal of the future.
Yeah. And sentiment that you talked about. You guys, this is money. I mean, time's blowing by really fast. I definitely think you're going to want to not only connect with Brie
you got to do a recap. They got to write recap.
Social channels, her TikToks are fire. Like the whole thing is great. Really good tips there. So definitely type the word recap in the comments here. You'll get a recap of today's tips as well as the links to connect with Brie. So definitely type that word in there. I guess we already have people saying they're doing it now with Google Trends, and you're spot on. Personalization, sentiment is what Google's even ranking on now. So really monitoring and measuring that. Final tip, if you had to give one last piece of advice, Brie, before we wrap it up, what would you say?
Collect it before you need it. That I've been saying that a lot more recently, because I've seen far too many times, somebody's been around for 5 years and they never had Google Analytics set up. And so then now they have no data to work off of. Or they've been around for 5 years and they don't have a CRM. Now they know nothing about their customers, right? It happens a lot. So collect it before you need it. If you have no idea how you're going to use it right now, make sure that you're gathering that data, because when you need it, it's going to be too late, unfortunately.
That's money, you guys.
Beautiful.
So true. Even setting up your goals, because it's like, hey, we want to get 100 sales or whatever signups this month. That's, is that realistic? Can we be done? I was like, I'll say, where were you before? Right. And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, then I don't know either. I can't tell you if that's realistic or not based upon no benchmark. Right. So
especially as Google specifically starts rolling out these new tools that are based on automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. We can get predictive analytics, but if you haven't set up a goal, there's no predictive analytics because it forecasts based off the past. There's no anomaly detection for you because it is based off the past. So start now, start early, even if you're like, well, I only get 2 users. 2 users is more than 0 users. Okay. Start collecting today.
Yeah. And a lot of starting out Google Analytics, it's free. A lot of these tools are all free. So Brie is spot on with her tips. Don't be scared of it. Get started, using Google Analytics and the free analytics tools that are out there, even Facebook, all of them, social tools. But definitely, as she said, start now before you need it. And there's always somebody that could help you too, should you need it. Any of, the people on this panel, of course. So make sure that you are definitely collecting that data. So Brie, you are a wealth of information. Freaking rock star nerd is just an amazing title for you because I love it. I love that blend of just data geekiness, but then a rocker vibe. If you guys have not seen it, you have to check out the Social Media Week Lima 20 2021 picture of the recap. Everybody that took the picture together. It's Brie and I with the rocker hands. First time ever I've done that on stage in a skirt, mind you. With the
Yeah. You were brave on
a
that
little
one.
tricky, but it was good. But no, Brie, thank you so much for your time. Thank all of you for tuning in with us. We'll be back here next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Magnet Marketers. Brie, as we close out, where can everybody find you? Where's the best place to connect?
You can just Google Brie Anderson. All my stuff will pop up. But I'm most active on Twitter. So if you find that and you hang out on Twitter, come connect with me and we'll be talking nerdy stuff for sure.
Awesome. Everybody says, Brie, you are amazing. We
Beautiful.
agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be back here next week. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Brie. Thanks, everyone.